Welcome to the Slice of Time Street Photography Podcast. Today I'm joined by Archie Worth, a street photographer from Edinburgh. His work speaks to me because of his strong contrast black and white images. So, hey Archie, hope you're doing well. Could you introduce yourself for a second there?
Well, hi Fred, and thanks for having me on. So about me, I'm Archie Worth, 24 years of age, and I've been living in Edinburgh since 2019 when I came for uni, and stayed ever since, and basically found street photography through a bit of an accident, really. Basically, I had a nice camera that I bought on for a holiday, and I found it was just sitting in my room not doing much. So I thought I've got to make use of this, and decided to just walk around Edinburgh and capture what I could find. And the university had an exhibition for a photographer called Robert Blomfield. Don't know whether you've heard of Robert Blomfield,
Not yet,
but
no.
he was an Edinburgh photographer that his work really inspired me, and it showed what was sort of possible within Edinburgh specifically. And so I think my work is sort of a bit of a copy of him, really, because that's who I was trying to aspire to be like. And so that was the main inspiration for me finding the niche of street photography.
Okay, so that was
Yeah.
before you started going out with your camera or after?
Sort of after I was going out with my camera and getting the sort of standard shots of Edinburgh Castle from different angles, and there were probably more tourist like shots probably at the start, and then it was ever since going to that art exhibit at the university, and I was like, wow, that's something about it sort of spoke to me, and that's what I tried to emulate, and then obviously since then discovering street photography as a genre, and the different photographers sort of it went from there, really.
Okay, that's
So,
cool,
yeah.
yeah. And so, like, so it was inspiring, and you said, like, you copy his work, but it's like copying in, like, an aesthetic way, or, like, more in the
Yes,
way of
yeah.
how he looks
So
at things, or?
yeah, Robert Blomfield's photography is very much it's all high contrast stuff, and obviously it's quite a few years ago, so it was all film photography. But yeah, a lot of silhouettes, which is sort of, I don't know how you'd say it really, but that's very prevalent within my work, is silhouettes and high contrast work. So yeah, that was the main thing that stood out to me from his stuff.
Okay, cool. And so did you, like, buy a book and went a deep dive into his work that way, or is it more like from memory, from seeing his work?
More from memory. I must have gone to that exhibit probably 4 or 5 times whilst it was open, because it was probably there for about a month, and so I went 3 or 4 times, and then obviously did a deep dive on the internet and discovered more of his work. So yeah.
Did, have you had that before, that you visited exhibitions that often, or is it really, like, it really
Probably
clicked
not. I
for
mean,
you?
I was definitely bored. That's probably why I went to it in the first place. But
Okay,
um,
that's honest.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was bored and went along, and that was it, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's amazing that like how boredom can be so inspirational, but that's cool, yeah. And now you try to focus on Edinburgh as well, or?
Yeah. I mean, I live in Edinburgh, so that's my home now, and so I love to capture Edinburgh. But obviously, if I go on holiday and things like that, it's all the same. Um, Always wanted to go out with the camera on the streets and take photos there. But I've yet to get bored of Edinburgh as a city, which surprises quite a few people when I say that, because I don't. Have you ever been to Edinburgh?
It's been like when I was 16, so it's been like 16 years probably, yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's been a while.
But you might be able to remember it's actually a very small city.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked it up population-wise. It's similar to the city I'm in, maybe slightly bigger. So it's not too big, but it's definitely not a London
Yeah,
or
and
a Paris.
everywhere's walkable,
Yeah,
and so it's not, it's not like London where there's so many different areas and districts. You can get lost in each of them for quite a while. There's very few main streets in Edinburgh, and so it's quite limited in that way. But I find that a bit of a benefit, really, because it means that I tend to walk the same streets and the same kind of route when I'm doing my photo walks, and so it has to force you to look at things differently because it's the same over and over
mm.
again.
Yeah, true. Yeah, light
So
changes, the weather changes. About the weather, actually, I noticed in a lot of your
yes,
photos it was like very sunny, but I know Edinburgh is not a sunny city.
yeah.
So
I know. That's funny you say that actually because I've not really thought of that before.
yeah, I mean it's not in every
Yeah,
photo, but I noticed after a while like there's very a lot of course it has to do with the high contrast, but there's a lot of or it helps with the high contrast, but there's a lot of yeah like direct sun or harsh sunlight, which I don't find like synonym
you
to
don't
Edinburgh.
associate with Edinburgh.
Yeah.
That's yeah. No, that's true. Yes, I've never really thought of that before. It must be that it's always quite bright. It's not necessarily sunny in Edinburgh, but I feel like it's always quite bright, and so often the sun will break through the clouds, and that's where you get that little bit of sun. But the one thing about Edinburgh, which is probably related to that, is the weather changes every hour. So even if you go out and it's pouring down with rain in the first hour that you're out and about with your camera, it's guaranteed within 2 hours that it's going to be bright sunlight. So
That's very nice, yeah.
yeah. So that's quite nice having that sort of variety, really.
That's cool,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I like it because yeah, for me it's like if it rains it's like 2 weeks of non-stop rain. So that's Belgium. So but yeah, and then how long did you are you doing street photography now then?
Do you mean sort of weekly? How many days
I
a week
mean
kind
like
of thing, or
since the moment you saw that exhibition, let's
right?
say.
Okay. So would have come to Edinburgh 2019, and then it would have been, I would say, probably 2021.
Okay.
Actually,
So that's
I would
4 years
I'd be
now,
able to
yeah.
check because I keep every single photo I've ever taken on
Do
a
you have
hard
like a
drive.
system for it?
It's all dumped in a big Edinburgh file by
Okay.
date.
Okay, by date. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
yeah, that's
of course, yeah.
that's a
But
system, so yeah.
I would be able to tell you the first street photo that I took, which yeah, if I had to guess, would probably be 2021.
Okay, so 4 years. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, because I mean your work is very very strong. So
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. And that's for me. Then 4 years is quite fast, I think. And so like because you did the quotation marks on street photography earlier for the first photos. Like, what did you immediately saw your work as street photography, or was it like at first like just copying?
No,
Uh,
I think it's probably the same as most street photographers' sort of entry into the genre is it's you. I don't know. You might start off taking a photo of a person passing into a certain frame that you've set up or something, or an interesting character. For me, that was my first attempt at it, if you know what I mean. Um, so yeah, there was a lot of that in the early days. A lot of interesting characters, and then frames which I'd had in mind, gone to, and waited for somebody to walk through it, and that was sort of street for me. But there's only so far that I found that can take you, especially sort of creatively. It's only, it's very formulaic, isn't it? That kind of
To a degree,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's still merit in it, and there's people that do it exceptionally well. But for me personally, I found it very. There was nothing particularly creative about it.
No, I can imagine what you're trying to say, yeah. And so you decided to switch it up then, or?
I don't think it was a sort of conscious decision to say, right, I'm going to try and capture other things. It was probably more. It was more me being dissatisfied with what I was taking, and therefore just trying everything else to see what would work. And then obviously once you know of other street photographers, you're aware of different styles and different things that you can take photos of, and that opened it up a bit for me, because you've got photographers that do a lot of sort of specific detailed kind of shots, like your hands and I don't know, watches, and do you know what I mean? Like very close up specific things. So that opened it up for me. I did quite a bit of that sort of stuff. But I'm trying to think how I would describe my work now is probably. It's tough because I've never had to describe my own work before. But
No, I get that. For me,
Yeah.
I made a note. I'm looking where it is. It's like you have like a great balance between like moments and aesthetics. So like, as you said, like the silhouettes before, it's like more like a. To me, it's more like an aesthetical street photography direction. Like it's pleasing to look at, but it's like not really like anything documenting or
Yes,
or it's telling a thing about the city or the person. But at the same time, like you have also the moments kind of shots, which can be like very interesting, but aesthetically they're not great. But it's like it tells a story about something happening.
Yes.
And you're like in the middle, like your shots are well composed, nicely exposed, very interesting to look at. But at the same time, there's like great moments in it. Like there's some examples I have to see. There's like I'm having a look. Like for example, you have like the skateboarder on your profile on your Instagram page who's like in the sky, which is like a very interesting composition. Also like the kids coming down from the statue. You call it like rule breakers. It's like the composition is good and it's a good moment. It's not just like like a silhouette somewhere. It's like there's an actual story behind it. Like you see the kids coming down, but it's also like well composed. So it's not just like a snapshot of the moment. So that's what I very much like in your work.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I sometimes dabble in the sort of more documentary style. So I tend to shoot on 50 mil really.
All the time, or
that's my go-to. That's without fail. If I had to pick one, that's me, 100%. I did recently pick up a 28 and was sort of dabbled with it, and I find that you just get that. I don't think I've mastered it yet, which is no surprise really because I've only just got it. But it provides a completely different kind of image, really. I find it very hard to capture the same type of thing that I do with a 50.
No, I get that. To me, like because I've done the same evolution. So I used to be on 50 millimeters a lot, and I've moved to the 28 millimeters, and I kind of like it. Like, but it's funny how a lens has to click with you. Like you have to try it out, and at a certain point you get it, and then it all makes sense to how to use it. But it's there's like this awkward phase where you have to go to for like understanding the lens, because as you said, like 28 and 50 millimeters is such a big difference in what you see in your shot. So that's but it's cool that you're trying to experiment with it. And do you notice it gives like a difference in your style, or?
Yeah, it's when I'm taking 28, it's definitely more. I'm trying to think if documentary is the right phrase for it really, right description. It probably is. It's more scenes and it's less moments. It's more your sort of, like your classic New York kind of street photography where everything's really, you're very close to your subject and everything's sort of, it's quite busy. Whereas I find that the shots that I'm most proud of are quite simple, really. They're not cluttered compositions. They're they're just very simple, and it's silhouettes, and it's high contrast, and it's with the 28. I find everything's just. I struggle to do that, the same type of thing, really. But
no, I get that.
I suppose it's only natural.
Like, it's like keep trying it because I know it will work out eventually. But at the same time, like if you really don't like it, just drop it because it's not worth it. But it's like it's you never know until you try. That's also why I have this podcast, because it's like it's inspiration to me, but also to other people. Like there's no right or wrong lens. It's just like try it out, keep on trying it out, and listen to other photographers. Like for example, you're doing this 50mm to, well, it's not really a switch, but it's like a test at least.
Trying it out, yeah.
Yeah, and it can be really inspiring to do so. And it's like, or the other way around, you can go from a 28 to a 50mm as well. And it's like, it's a cool thing to try out. So I'm happy that you do try it out. And so, like most of your, how recently have you started with the 28?
I would have got it maybe 3 months ago, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So very recent, really.
And is it like a conscious decision to go out, like say today I'm going to do 20mm, 28mm, or do you like carry both and?
Yeah, it's funny. I used to make it a conscious decision, just take the 28 out, so I was forced to do it. And I found that definitely rendered better results because I couldn't just fall back on the 50. But I went out a number of times and just got nothing with it, and so I just started carrying both, and then always resorted back to the 50 and started getting stuff again.
Okay.
So yeah, I've not decided on it yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, if you're going to keep it even, yeah. And like how often do you go out then?
Yeah, so work full times on the 2 days off a week that I get. So for example, this week I've got tomorrow and Sunday off. That's what I'll be doing on those 2 days, and it's pretty much the same every week, really. Get up early, go for a run usually, clear the head, and then head out from, I would say, 10 till maybe 1, and then I'd come home for lunch and go back out again until maybe 4.
Yeah.
So it's really full days on the days off, really.
Okay, it's like no matter the weather or.
No matter the weather, I'm always out, and I think that's why. I think that's why I'm happy with some of the photos that I've made, is because it's all that effort that you've put in, it's all that time that you're investing into something, that you're actually getting that reward back. Because I did stints where I was only out for a couple hours and I'd get nothing, and street photography is one of those sort of areas where unless you're out for long periods of time quite regularly, I don't think you can get those shots repeatedly.
Yeah, you really have to put in the work to get enough opportunities to get those shots. Yeah. It's like the more you go out, the more chance you have at taking good shots. So that makes total sense. Do you have like a warm-up period, or do you get straight into it?
Tend to get straight into it, really.
Like you can go out and make like a great shot within like 5 minutes or...
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Sometimes,
cool.
especially because my settings and my lens is so familiar that I don't need to adjust anything really. I know distances and all that, so it feels second nature in that sense.
You do zone focusing then, or like
No,
manual?
auto.
Oh, okay.
But in terms of framing and you know,
Okay, yeah, like that. Okay, sure.
yeah,
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah, in terms of compositional distance and stuff. Yeah, I forgot your question actually.
Do you like if you have like a warm up period,
Yes,
like
sorry, warm
some
up.
crappy shots that you have to get through, and then
No, but I find I've only found it out quite recently, I suppose, in the last couple of months that as long as I start off and I'm not afraid to click the shutter, because you know what it's like when you do the street. For some reason, even though you do it every week for hours on end, there's times where you don't press it because you're nervous or you think somebody's
yeah,
looking. So I find as long as I start off the day just firing freely, the rest of the day is usually quite a success, and I'll come home with 10 or so images that I'm reasonably happy with.
yeah. So there's like a kind of like getting into photographing people. Then I assume like getting close to them and taking their, or like more or less close, but or
Yeah,
do I
and
misunderstand?
also focusing on taking photos. There's a number of times when you go out and you're not particularly feeling it, or you're listening to music and you're just sort of on a walk. Whereas I find you've got to be like, I always carry my camera right here because I'm trying to be poised, ready, and focused, and looking. And whereas because I've got it on the strap, when you've got it by your hip, oftentimes you'll miss something, and because you're just walking around. So me personally, if I've got it up there, I'm focused and I'm ready, and I'm looking for the photo rather than sort of walking around and maybe something interests me.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'm more of I call it my purse sometimes because it's just like hang over my shoulder and I'm walking around. So but I should try it out like you said, like to have it more primed maybe. So that's already a useful tip for me personally then. Because I do sometimes notice that I'm slow or too slow. Um, so like because there are some great moments I noticed in your photos. There's like there's one of a lady in a wheelchair passing by a dog in, well, it's not a wheelchair, but it's like a similar thing happening, and she's like smiling to the dog. But also this one photo of like it's a guy doing his shoelaces, and there's like a baby hanging out. So to me, it kind of looked like it was a baby doing
Yes, I know the one you're on about. Yeah.
So do you see those things happening like seconds in advance and anticipate to get close enough, or how do you go about those moments? Is it like
Yeah, so
just
for
like
those two,
lucky?
yeah, those two in particular, I don't know whether about you, but I can remember taking every single one of my photos. Are you the
Oh, yeah.
same or not? Yeah.
Uh, to a degree, like I have some shots that I'm. There's some photos that I like. I know I was there, that I took the photos, but afterwards I was like I didn't remember really like clicking like, it was like I was in that moment. I saw what happened, but I can't remember like clicking the
Yeah, it's
button. But
funny.
I
Like
have the photos, so I did so. But
I don't know why I seem to just always remember that like second before taking it, and that sort of light bulb moment going, oh, there's a photo.
sometimes, yeah, I get
Yeah.
those as
So for
well.
those two, the wheel lady and the dog, and what was the other one? The other one was
The
the baby,
baby in the
the baby
shoelaces, yeah.
guy. Yeah. So lady and the dog, I think, was more initially just the the reaction of the lady made me sort of look for the shot, and then saw it was obviously a sort of strange scenario with the dog in particular. And then the guy tying his shoe with the baby on his back, but it looks like the baby's tying the shoe. I was actually out with my friend on a sort of photo walk, and I'd moved round to sort of get a sort of detailed shot of the guy taking his shoe, just to take a photo. It was one
without
of those,
the baby, you mean, like just like a
it was it was like you said before, it was a bit of a warm up exercise. Just take a photo of a guy tying his shoe, whatever. And then as I moved round to get a better composition of the guy, it then came into view that how the baby's head was sort of falling. So that's when that clicked for me. But yeah,
I think
in terms of
that's
anticipating
great.
shots, though, I think you have to have an element of that to do street photography. I wouldn't say I do it for all of my shots. A lot of them just feel quite instinctual, and I just take it and then realise when I get home that I've got something good. That's quite often the way it works. But yeah, for definitely some of them, you do have a sense of what might happen. And so you're always ready for what might happen or what that person might do. And that's where you should be, poised and ready to take that.
True, yeah. But like, for example, the guy with the shoelaces, and I understand that you had like several seconds, maybe even a minute to like get the right angle on him.
Yeah, it was quite. That one was lucky. That was a slow one. I had time to move on that one. But yeah, obviously most are gone by that time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes second moments are just like a few seconds. But I really like that photo stood out for me because I was really confused for a second there. So it was very nice to see. Another thing that I noticed is like you very often like tilt your photos. Like there's one very obvious. Well, it's an obvious tilt, but I think it's a great photo of like the. I just had it here now. I lost it. Of like the electrical stairways. I forgot the name.
Yeah.
Like from a metro stop.
Yes, yeah, I've got it up here.
But there's like several other photos as well where you have like a.
I have a right hand tilt on quite a few of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like one with like fences and a guy smoking a cigarette, I think. And it's like a very like a recurring thing. Is that something like you do instinctively? Is it something you picked up somewhere, or is it?
It's
even
funny. Like I've realised I did it, and I was trying to figure out why I did it, and there was only a couple reasons. So one is I find for whatever reason it's just more interesting and looks more like an action snapshot than a straight head-on sort of level shot, if you will.
Yeah, that makes
obviously
sense,
some photos call. Yeah, obviously some photos call for that level shot, but for your more spontaneous ones, as an artistic choice, if you will, I find it slightly more intriguing. And then the second reason is because I use quite a short strap on my camera. So if I do have it by my hip and I'm quickly going up to take the photo, it just happens that often my camera is more of a right tilt on it.
That's actually funny. So it's like it's kind of like a practical problem that became like a very nice looking aesthetic.
Yes, yeah.
That's cool. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't have guessed the second reason.
Yeah, but I definitely do it consciously now. Even when I didn't realise that I was doing it before, sometimes even if I do have the time and a free hand, I will tilt it a bit for whatever reason.
That's great. And so like you have a very strong sense for composition, I find. Is it something like you studied, you looked a lot through books, or how did you
Like,
get that skill?
to be honest with you, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, yeah, that's
Like-
fine. That's totally
Like
fine.
I look through books. I've got quite a few books, mostly black and white as well. But in terms of composition, I wouldn't have an answer as to how or why I compose the images the way they do. I just do what feels fairly natural within the frame.
I think that's very normal to do. Yeah, like sometimes you have like some people can have a very analytical look at their compositions. For me as well, it's more
You just know what looks right, don't you? At the end of the
intuitively.
day,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and if you look to plenty of books or plenty of whatever, you'll get a sense of it eventually. But that's I find that a very honest and interesting answer. That's I like that. I just had a question, but I lost it.
About black and white.
Yeah.
maybe?
Is it sorry?
About black and white, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Is it? Do you like because I assume you shoot like raw, or do you? And then you like do some shots get to stay or be in color eventually, or do you like don't pick those shots even?
I shoot in black and white raw.
Yeah,
So if I use my screen on the camera,
it's black and white
it's
already.
in black
Yeah.
and white. I found that was a big help because I didn't do that for quite a while, and then I changed it, and I thought it was a huge help.
Yeah, if you know you're going to use the photos in black and white, it helps pre-visualize because
Yeah.
sometimes yes, tones can be different. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing is there's a couple reasons. So first reason why I shoot black and white is, like you just said, it's for the consistency. So when I'm out shooting, I'm not thinking, oh, is this going to be a color image or is this going to be a black and white image? I don't even have to ask that question. It's black and white, so I know what I'm looking for. I know I'm looking for light, and I know I'm looking for shadow, and I'm looking for backlighting specifically. Whereas if you were shooting color, you'd want more front-facing light, sort of stereotypically. So I find that just it gets rid of any hesitation there. So I know what I'm shooting and I know what I'm looking for. So there's no questions that need to be asked. I'm just doing that, and then also just from looking at sort of the street photography greats, really. Like Elliot Erwitt is one of my favourites, and a lot of his, great images are in black and white. And I find it sort of, not dilutes, that's the wrong word. It concentrates an image to its sort of simpler form.
To a degree, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've got an image in black and white, I feel like the moment or the person or the story you're telling in that photo has to be fairly obvious, because there's not the color to explain it, if you know what I mean. I don't know whether that makes any sense, but
No, I get what you're trying to say. It's like your subject has to be stronger because you don't have the extra support of color.
yeah, or
Kind
I'm just trying to make simple photos that you look at and you just understand straight away.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
That's probably it.
makes sense. And yeah, you mentioned Elliot Erwitt. Are you like very influenced by a lot of photographers, or is it more like you kind of find interest in?
I wouldn't say I'm like particularly as I said at the start, Robert Blomfield is main influence, and I think that's quite clear
And
in
that's
quite
still
a few of the.
still happening, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I'd recommend having a look at his stuff because
Yeah, I'm gonna,
it's
yeah.
really good. But I think that's the only big influence I would say. Like some of Elliot's work, you wouldn't be able to, replicate or try and duplicate really because of it's on that sort of upper level. Um, so no, I think I've found my. I'd like to say I've found a fairly or a style that's unique to me. That's the goal really.
Okay. And do you like because you mentioned going out with friends on photo walks earlier? Does that like influence you as well, like seeing other people at work, or is it more like, or are you both in the same style?
No, both got very different styles. I don't think that tends to influence me either. Really, I'm always yeah. I always know the type of image that I can produce, and so whenever I'm out with a camera, sort of whether I'm with people or not, I tend it tends not to be uh, influenced by anything. I would say,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And I've heard a lot of photographers talk about it already. Do you have like do you notice like less? I'm gonna call it productivity. I don't like the word because it's kind of ugly, but like less productivity in your shots when you go out with a friend than alone. Because most people like see that they shoot more shots, have more keepers as well if they like just go solo. Uh, but of course, going with a friend is can be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't shoot with friends very regularly, and when I have like that one on the escalator that you pulled up earlier, that one was when I was with my friends, so it doesn't tend to distract me. I can still get a good photo, but yeah, definitely solo. Solo, I would get a wider or a larger amount of photos for sure.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it's easier to lock in.
yeah,
I think. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay. And so, because I'm curious to it, like a lot of people, like you mentioned, Edinburgh is not that big. I think it's. I don't think it's small either, but definitely it's. There's a lot of bigger cities. Like, do you have like, and you mentioned like going around and doing the same tours. Is there like particular spots you enjoy the most, and do you notice that you like go back to them more often, or is it like
Yes.
very spread out?
It's annoying actually because I took it off my pinned top three, but there's one photo and it's it's sort of on the corner from Waverley Station uh, and the start of Princes Street. So Edinburgh's most famous street, really. And in that little area from the Balmoral Hotel, the station on Princes Street, I've spent a couple full days not moving from that sort of 200
Really?
yard circle. Yeah, so that's definitely the favourite for me.
And so, like, not moving meant like really staying in that square for like the entire day, or
I mean, I've only had it a few, and you've definitely had it. Is when you're in that sort of flow state, and it feels like every time you click the shutter, you've got like a really solid image. I've probably
too
had
rarely,
that.
but it happened. Yeah.
Yes, it happens, but you're right. It's very rare. I've probably had it three times in the past 4 years, but two out of the three times where that's happened has been where I've not moved from in a sort of 300-yard radius, and I've just walked circles for like 3 hours. Which people in coffee shops looking around must be rather worried for me, but I
And do
enjoy
they
it.
notice? That's always a question. Like to me,
I
street
don't.
photography
Well,
really taught me how
if
less
you see a
people,
guy
how
walk
little.
past this window for the 20th time, you're probably thinking something, but
Yeah, but then you
yeah,
see the camera and then you're like, okay, makes sense.
yeah.
Maybe he's a tourist who's lost. Like, I mean,
that's probably it actually. Yeah.
But like for me, like it was amazed how little people notice like about things happening around them. Like they don't see you sitting somewhere in like a weird spot, or like to me for me, because I seem to be always aware of everything around me, like in a hyper like vigilant state. And through street photography I discovered that's not the the average of people apparently.
No,
So
I'm
to me,
I'm always shocked at how few people realise that you've taken a photo of them.
yeah, exactly, yeah, that you're
Like
even
I'll
there.
be, yeah, I'll be right in front of them, and I'll flash the camera up and take it and put it down again, and they've not even clocked, and it's sort of
No, exactly, yeah. So
yeah.
that's to me was an eye opener in street photography. And so like just I don't really like talking gear too much because I find it's not too interesting. But like, do you have like a silent camera? Is it like a mirrorless or?
No, it's I shoot on Nikon, which I know is frowned upon amongst
Nikon
the
as
street
well. So
photography.
I'm
You do as
not.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go. I knew I liked you. Yeah, so I shoot on Nikon. It's a DSLR, but has a nice sort of mirrorless. It's sort of a hybrid, really.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a D780, so it's got a good mirrorless screen. Sort of
Yeah, like the
function
live
as well.
view thing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm now on the Z7 and Z8, but
Right, so you're
uh,
full mirrorless.
since a year. Yeah. It used to be the D850s, but they're loud and they're
Yeah,
heavy. They're so annoying. It's like
yeah. Well, I bought it before I knew that street photography was my sort of passion, really. So it's more, it's more of a, I don't know how you describe it really, but it's more of your standard DSLR for maybe commercial work or something of that nature. And it's more that I just, molded it to fit what I do now, and it's a great camera. Love it.
yeah. But
Absolutely
I
love
just
it.
think like a camera has just has to fit you. Like you can, I know Bartazari was in episodes. I have to take a quick peek. 8. He uses like a Ricoh GR3, which is like a very small camera, and it's and
Yes,
some
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
like I know like Manja de Prater, she uses like a 24-70 millimeter lens, which is like huge. So it's like it just has to work for you. Like there's no right or wrong in gear. Um, I think like of course I'd love to get a Leica. I'm not gonna pay for a Leica. I would love to get
Yeah,
one, but
let's be gifted one.
yeah.
Yes,
I'm
yeah, won't we all?
I'm not gonna buy one because I can buy like 2 Nikons for the same price, or like several lenses, whatever. But it's like it has to work for you, and for some people, of course, the Leica. I get the allure. Like it does look good. It does make great photos, but it's not the camera, I think,
No,
because it's just like
I think it's a bit of an aesthetic choice. I'm not saying I wouldn't
yeah,
want one, but it's definitely
it
an
looks good.
aesthetic
Yeah,
choice. Yes, exactly. You look like
but
a
like
proper street photographer if you've got one.
exactly like you'd feel like an Elliot Erwitt. Like you wouldn't reproduce the same photos. Like it's like the camera is probably the same quality as your Nikon, but it like if it feels good for you, then it's right as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
was having this discussion with a mate a few weeks ago, and it was like it was all about the gear and the sort of weird gear shaming that there is, and it's sort of give me any camera, and I'll be able to take a good photo with it. And give somebody else a Leica, and give whoever a sort of bog standard entry level Canon or Nikon, and I know I'd probably be able to take a photo that I was pleased with and is better than that.
No, that's exactly it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all about what you see and what you're anticipating to see.
Yeah, and like it's best to put money in your education of photography rather than your gear of photography, because like learning about composition, learning about moments, learning about whatever is worth more for than any camera. So it's like books are more a better investment than cameras. And so like did you start out with the 50mm, or was it like a kit lens, or?
Got them here. So I started with the kit lens. This is a 24 to 120.
Wow, that's okay.
So it's it was a beefy thing, and it was heavy, and it was cumbersome, and it was awful. And then moved to the 50 and haven't looked back since. So I think 50 is like everybody's first sort of prime lens, really, isn't it?
It was mine. I think prime, and also like less than like I'm not sure what maybe f4 or whatever. Like it was definitely my first 1.8 lens, and it feels so like it's funny. Like to me, it felt so mighty to be able to do like the bokeh and stuff, and then like now I'm learning to stop doing it and use like f5.6, f8, f11, f16 sometimes even. So because it's fun to have like the very sharp focus on with a low depth of field, but I'm learning that it's more interesting to show more and have a good composed photo than a blurry background. Yeah. Is it something like your settings? Is it something you twiddle with often, or are you more like you set your settings and it's more focus on composition then, or?
I'll go out and I'll set my settings. I'll set my. Yeah, to be honest, I tend to only fiddle with shutter.
Okay, so you're like
ISO,
a shutter
obviously.
priority. Okay.
Yeah. I quite often shoot in shutter priority. Just because that's the only thing that would make the greatest difference to me in terms of the type of shot that I would like.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I'm an aperture priority person, but I can totally see what you're telling. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's quite often I like to experiment with slightly draggy or blurry shots. Not that they're ever particularly my favourite, but there's times when I want to try the panning shot and I want to try slow shutter stuff. So yeah, shutter priority for me is it's quickest way of making the biggest difference in an image, I think.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. It's also like if there's movement, like the playing kids or the skateboarder, then it's important that it's really sharp. So like you have to. I'm not sure what you did with the skater, but it's at least 1/400 probably. So it goes in different ways. It's not only the long exposure, but also the short exposure. But to me it's interesting because like settings, they are important in a degree, but at the same time, like it's better to just have the shot than to have a perfectly sharp photo on like the exact perfect shutter speed. And so like we'll be wrapping up quickly.
Okay.
Also wanted to ask you, there's like there's some like shots that are more complex. Like I have to have a look at which ones I mean. It's like as I think it's what you said earlier. Like it's not a moment, but it's like a scene. So there's this one. I'm having a look. Well, it's 55 weeks ago, so maybe you don't remind it. But like you have it pinned on your profile with like the people crossing the street, like you have the woman with the stroller and the kid, and
Yeah.
then you have like it's like slightly more complex scenes. Like how do you decide? Like I can imagine you have like a composition in mind. You wait for the right persons to go like uh, to find their place in the stage, and then you click. But it's is there like a long wait for you, or is it like something
So
you?
that photo, particularly the one that's the sort of first pinned one, is my favourite photo that I've taken. Which is strange because it's not really the most. It's not filled with action, and it's not maybe the most. It's not a technically great image, I don't think. But it's all about the composition on the image, and I remember taking it, and the light was coming down this road, and this was an area of the city which I very rarely go down as well.
Okay.
So that was another reason why it was so special, was because I decided to sort of walk off the beaten track a bit and go to a sort of less like this area is not very busy at all. And yeah, the light was great, and then I saw the lady with it was actually the old lady on the right hand side which I spotted first. I remember this.
Going around the corner.
And I was thinking, hey, that's quite a nice photo. Even without the other people, it would be quite a nice photo.
For sure, yeah.
And then as I took the first image of the lady sort of rounding the corner, these three other people started coming into shot, and it was one of those where you're just waiting until each person is separate from the other in the image, and then it was like,
yeah.
And then it was bang. Yeah.
Are you like a one-shot person, or do you like use a?
This one would have been a few, but definitely not like a burst.
Yeah, you don't have like that. It's not automatic. Like takes 10 shots when you.
No, I tend not to do that because I find it a bit robotic, really.
Like
because you can just, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. I didn't do it as well, and I'm like this past week I've been trying it out, and I do see using it like sometimes. Like in this scenario, like you take like 4 or 5 shots in a row from like just before and just after, and then but yeah, to me it's not a reflex as well. Like I still have to learn that it's like high, you call it high speed. So for me it's like I take a photo usually, and I take several. So for me it's the instinct isn't there yet, but yeah.
And then on this particular image, it was only then after, through editing it, that I sort of found the interesting part about it was how everybody. That's why I called it different walks of life. Was that everybody in the image is of a, you've got your old woman on the right, and you've got your young kid and mother with a pram, and then you've got the woman and the man there. So it's like every single stage of life is sort of is shown in that one. I know you sort of tend to overanalyze your own work and think it, it has a deeper meaning.
I was gonna ask if you do that, because for me it's like it's a photo, and sometimes I do like, okay, this could mean, but it's like 1 in every 100 shots that I
of course
finalize that I think like for something about it. So it's funny that you have like, because I see these titles for a lot of your photos. Is it something you're like some are obvious, of course, like the kids with the statue called Rule Breakers. Like it's a good title, but it's like, I mean, it's. But for example, the walks of life, of different walks of life, it didn't click until you just mentioned it. Is it something you're like intentional with? Like, is it really something like you take time to title your photos?
Well, just touching on something you just said there about sort of like seeing the deeper meaning and stuff. I'm very much like you in that I would take a photo, and the vast majority of them, they are a photo, but there's no. I like to think they're a good photo, but there's
Yeah,
not necessarily any meaning behind them. I think you only get those once in a while, and you're lucky when you do. That's what makes it a great photo rather than like a good photo.
perhaps, yeah, true.
Perhaps, yeah. Um, so yeah, there's only a few photos of mine that I would put in that category of like, hey, there's something behind those images which means something a bit more. But in terms of captioning them, I am I'm probably just delving into the pretentious photographer style, if you know what I mean. If I was being honest, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna name this something short and sweet and put a dot at the end so it's cool.
Yeah, okay, no, that's
That's me.
I like
Yeah,
how honest you are in those things. That's really great. No, yeah, I mean I can imagine. Yeah, it's to me like I wouldn't dare to do it because it like as you said it might feel pretentious, but at the same time I think it really works, and you're really clever with your titles and uh, yeah,
I
I
think it
mean
only. I think if it does work, and I'm not sure it does, but if it does work, I think it only works because I'm self-aware that it's slightly stereotypical photography stuff. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, perhaps like I'm thinking yeah. Because there's one here also like open door with the guy in like the black wall with the square. Like, I mean, it's a great title for the photo, yeah. And I mean, then you have like Waverley Bridge, which is obvious,
Yeah,
like
I was
it's an
uninspired
occasion.
that day.
Yeah, but it's I mean, sometimes it's that's plenty. So no, to me,
Exactly.
I've
Less is more.
never
Less is
delved
more.
into the tiling of photos yet. So for me, if there's ever an exhibition of my work, it will all be like untitled, untitled, untitled. So, but I think
Well, that's
that's
pretty
I
pretentious.
think it's maybe maybe I think it's a good like maybe I should get into the practice of finding titles for my photos as well. So I think like it's a great thing that you do. Definitely some great photos that deserve a title anyway. So it's yeah. Okay, so we're nearing an hour, so let's wrap it up before I get any more angry messages that the episodes are too long. So yeah, of course, I'm gonna put all your contact information, mainly your Instagram and your website, in the show notes and the description. Is there anything else people might need to know about you, or just to follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram. I do have a photo book.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I've got a photo book of a lot of my sort of best images from Edinburgh. They're all of Edinburgh. There's not any sort of link to buy that. That would just be like a DM if anybody's interested. That's probably the only thing I've got at the moment. Um, and yeah, thank you very much. Really enjoyed
Cool.
it.
Yeah. So I'll put the link for the website and the Instagram in the description, and people can send you an email or DM for your book. Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Thank you again. Good fun.